and welcome back to another episode of Historic Hot Laps. I'm your host, Alex Daniels, and we're going to kick it off with the Formula One at Singapore this week. Last night, under the lights in Marina Bay, 2025 Singapore Grand Prix delivered exactly what we hoped for F1. Had some thrilling passes, some team drama, major shifts in the championship picture, so let's break it down and how it all went. Setting the tone early in qualifying, George Russell claimed pole position with a lap of 1 minute 29 seconds, edging out Max Verstappen by just 0.182 seconds. Oscar Piastri took third in qualifying. That meant Russell would start up front, strong position on the track where overtakes are rare and execution is everything. From the start of the race, Russell held firm. He converted his pole into the lead, controlled pace, and managed the race brilliantly. On lap 1, tensions flared between McLaren teammates. Lando Norris aggressively overtook Oscar Piastri in turn 3, making contact and pushing Piastri down the order a little bit. Piastri was visibly upset afterwards. The stewards declared it a racing incident. Verstappen, meanwhile, tried to pressure Russell through the race, but couldn't find the pass. He finished 5.4 seconds behind. Lando Norris held on for third, gaining valuable points, damaging Piastri's lead. Piastri finishing fourth. Kimi Antonelli ends up bringing in fifth place. Charles Leclerc in sixth. Lewis Hamilton originally crossed seventh, but was penalized for repeated track limits and dropped to eighth, promoting Fernando Alonso to seventh. Oliver Bierman and Carlos Sainz rounded out your top 10 there. So notably, McLaren clinched the 2025 Constructors Championship during this race, thanks to the combined finishes of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri over the season. Also worth highlighting, the FIA declared this the first ever heat hazard F1 race due to the extreme ambient and track temperatures. Drivers faced brutal cockpit conditions. Heading into Singapore, Oscar Piastri led the drivers' standings. After this race, he remains on top with 336 points, but his lead over Norris has tightened. Norris now sits at 314. Max Verstappen moves up in third, closing in with 273 points to his name. George Russell jumps to fourth in the standings at 237 points, boosted by this win. Definitely some changes there. On the team side, McLaren now has 650 points, far ahead of Mercedes with 325. And that's the gap that cemented McLaren's dominance this season. So what's changed overall since this race? Well, Norris's leap to the podium helped him chip into Piastri's margin. Piastri's fourth was solid, but the intra-team clash will linger from the headlines, I'm sure. Russell's strong performance resurfaces him in the title conversation and bolsters Mercedes in the Constructors' battle. So that was Singapore 2025. Control from Russell, drama at McLaren, and recalibrated title momentum. 6 races left. Every point matters for this Drivers' Championship. We'll be here to cover that. Moving on, ROVAL weekend over there at NASCAR, the Charlotte ROVAL. So let's set the stage for the Truck Series. The EcoSave 250 was the first race of the round of 8 in the 2025 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. It was held there at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the road course / oval hybrid called the ROVAL, which is a 2.320 mile layout, blending road course turns and oval banking. This race was scheduled for 67 laps, but it did extend to 70 laps due to a green-white checker overtime finish. Many eyes were on Corey Heim, who's already had one of the most dominant seasons in Truck Series history, but the ROVAL is a tricky one. It's unpredictable and often pushes. Heim even had to battle back from an early setback, so lap 1 brought out some drama. Heim was involved in an accident in the old Calamity Corner there. Early chaos that put him on the back foot right away, but the story of the night was rebounded when Heim methodically climbed back through the field, leveraging his car's strength and smart pit decisions on an overtime restart with older tires. He held off his challengers to take the checkered flag. Heim's win was record-breaking. It was his 10th victory in the 2025 season, setting a new single-season Truck Series mark. Top 3 finished sweep for Tricon Garage. You had Corey Heim with the win, Brent Cruz coming in second, and Gio Ruggiero in third. Tricon is pretty much unstoppable this season, it seems. Brent Cruz had run very strongly. He led a race-high 56 laps before late cautions and strategies shuffled the running order, but he fought back and claimed second. Cruz also lost some time on pit road under pressure, which opened the door for Heim. Roger Cruz, Connor Zilic, and Josh Bilicki were among drivers putting in solid runs to round out the top 5. Some playoff drivers endured tough nights. Lane Riggs was in position late, dropped dramatically on the final restart to finish 21st. Hayden Honeycutt battled just outside the top positions, got spun on the final lap by Grant Enfinger while contesting for position. He ended up 14th. In short, overall, Heim weathered the storm, capitalized when it counted, and made the ROVAL his statement, honestly. Playoff impacts. How did it affect the postseason battle? The result locks Corey Heim into the championship 4. Really no surprise there. After Charlotte, here's how we're looking for the round of 8. Heim's locked in. Tyler Ankrum he gains 2 points. Hemrick gains 2 points. Carruth gains a point. Riggs down 1. Majeski -2. Enfinger -4. And Honeycutt -4. So as it sits currently, your top 4 with Heim, Ankrum, Hemrick, and Carruth. Definitely not what we thought coming into it from the round of 12, but that means Ankrum and Hemrick are still fighting for differential breathing room. Carruth is hanging by a thread, and Riggs, Majeski, Enfinger, and Honeycutt are all within striking distance still, especially with only 2 races left in the round of 8. Also noteworthy stuff, Chandler Smith and Jake Garcia have been eliminated after this round. So Heim's performance not only cemented his place in the finale, but also reshuffled who's trading punches on the playoff bubble. Heim crossed the finish line in overtime finish. Wasn't just a win, it was a statement, that's for sure. From a first lap crash to a lead change in the final yards, he proved why he's the driver to beat. Now he's locked into the championship 4, and everyone else is left scrambling. With the ROVAL under his belt, Heim advancing. The war is definitely not over, though. 2 more races stand between the rest of the field and a shot at the title. Next up, we'll see how the battle goes, and that's going to test resilience, strategy, and nerves of steel for this group. Let's dive into the Xfinity Series. More ROVAL action, revisiting the chaos, the Charlotte ROVAL. The Blue Cross North Carolina 250 delivered some fireworks, some heartbreak, and a defining moment for the Xfinity Series playoffs. So this is how it played out and who's moving on. It was scheduled for 67 laps. We ended up getting 68 with the overtime. Connor Zilisch, already on a tear this season, started on the pole with JR Motorsports, turning a lap of 1 minute 25 seconds with an average of 96 miles per hour. JRM made history in qualifying, sweeping the top 5 starting positions with the round of 12 on the line. Every lap matters for these guys. Some drivers, this was the last shot. Stage 1 saw Connor Zilisch taking command. Early drama with Corey Day slamming into the wall in lap 2, though no caution was thrown. Later, Harrison Burton went slow with mechanical trouble, triggering a stage caution. In typical form, Zilisch held strong, winning Stage 1. Jesse Love followed in second, Justin Allgaier in third. Stage 2 saw continued control by Zilisch, but the pit cycle and the penalty shook up that order. Nick Sanchez pulled the jack prematurely in his pit stall and drew a penalty. Meanwhile, Jesse Love opted to stay out and clinched the Stage 2 win. Sammy Smith and Austin Hill rounded out the top ones in that stage. So final stage, Stage 3, dominant Zilisch regained the lead after Love pitted. As laps wound down, he held a sizable lead with 6 laps to go, stretching nearly 9 seconds ahead of Allgaier. Then disaster struck. For a few playoff hopefuls, Sammy Smith, hoping a late caution would help him, pitted for fresh tires shortly after Sage Karam's right front failure brought out a caution that played into the hands of Smith and others, making aggressive strategy calls. When the field reset under overtime, Zilisch and Austin Green ran side by side, but Zilisch pulled clear. With 1 to go, he had a second in hand. Then, as fate would have it, a last-minute caution ended the race under yellow. Zilisch won the ROVAL, led 61 to 68 laps, and collected his 10th win of 2025, which is a super dominant performance. So Austin Green getting second is incredible, so congrats to him and that team. Sammy Smith there in third, and that rounds out your podium. So let's talk about the implications of the playoffs. This race was do or die for many. Zilich's win locks him into the round of 8. So this is how we shake out after this. You've got Brandon Jones, Zilisch, and Allgaier all locked in. Sam Mayers plus 26. He's fairly safe right now. Jesse Love plus 9. Sammy Smith plus 7. Carson Kvapil plus 3. Sheldon Creed plus 1. So obviously we're looking at a Creed, Kvapil, Smith, and Jesse Love fight there towards the end. Eliminated after the round of 12. You lost Nick Sanchez. Harrison Burton. Heartbreak for Taylor Graves. So close. Ended up 1 point short. And then Austin Hill also eliminated, 21 points shy of making it. And if you recall, he had 21 points taken away from his suspension for his contact with Amarola at the Brickyard there at the IMS Speedway, as we talked about over the summer. So those 21 points would have kept him in the playoffs. So obviously, definitely a disappointment for that team. JR Motorsports pulled off a huge win, not just for Zilisch, but to get 4 entries through to the next round. Zilisch had everything in his favor, pole, pace, control, but on track like the ROVAL, nothing's guaranteed. But when the final caution fell behind traffic in overtime, he kept ice in his veins, held off Green by half a car length, crossed the line victorious under yellow. That's how playoff contender makes a statement. So that's how the Xfinity ROVAL played out. Zilisch takes his claim amongst the elite. Gray and Sanchez are left licking their wounds, unfortunately. Next up, the round of 8 heads to Las Vegas, so the pressure only doubles there, and we'll see what comes of all of it. This brings us to the ROVAL Cup Series race. Made its final cut race stop there, the Charlotte ROVAL. It delivered exactly what we wanted. We've talked about the drama, some elimination, some new paths forward in the playoff hunt. So let's walk through how the Bank of America 400 played out and what it all means for this championship picture. When the checkered flag fell, Shane Van Gisbergen was the man in victory lane, and his win is now official. And at the ROVAL, obviously, no surprise there. There was a little bit of a post-race shakeup, though, we got to talk about. Riley Herbst, who originally had crossed the podium spot in third, was disqualified for failing post-race height rules. Super unfortunate there. Beyond that, 4 drivers saw their season ended at the ROVAL. Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, Bubba Wallace, and Tyler Reddick were eliminated from playoff contention. We saw a really strong run from the Hendrick team over there at the number 5 with Kyle Larson. He held on to everything he could in that race, but nobody's a match for SVG on the road course, and we know that. Even with a little bit of contact damage and stuff on that car, he was still much faster than anyone else. So with the round of 12 now in the books, the field is pared down to the round of 8. And these are your 8 remaining contenders. You've got Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, and Denny Hamlin. Importantly, that was definitely not in the order that they originated. Denny Hamlin enters the round of 8 as the points leader following the reset. SVG's win, while not impacting the playoffs since he had already been eliminated, still plays a spoiler. His performance shifts the dynamics of an elimination race. And for those eliminated of Chastain, Cindric, Wallace, and Reddick, who all fell short, their season ends there. As far as championship hopefuls go, SVG crosses under the checkered flag, hard-fought win, while behind him careers hung in the balance. And as the dust settles, those 4 drivers see their seasons end, but those still alive, their fight's just beginning, right? We've still got a few races left, some complicated tracks, points reset, the pressure only turns it up. So there's your wrap. The ROVAL has now shaped the round of 8, the field is set, the eliminated are known, and the momentum is shifting. Next weekend, we head to Las Vegas, where the remaining 8 will duel for survival, dominance, and a seat at the Championship 4. So stay tuned for that. The title heat is heating up. And also, if you haven't watched the replay of it, I highly recommend the last few laps with Ross Chastain doing everything he could to make it into that round of 8. He was so close. Hamlin ends up passing him with a little better car, a little better tire strategy. Chastain makes a dive bomb move, ends up taking out both of him and Hamlin, and they cross the finish line in reverse. Honestly, post-race, there were some conversations, and I don't think Hamlin understood the playoff picture and what it looked like for them. It would have been better for him to let Chastain in and not secure a spot for Joey Logano, obviously. But these things happen, and I believe there's probably a, had he known better kind of situation going on there. It is what it is. We'll see what happens in Vegas and who's going to be the favorite to take home the championship this year. All right, we can't close off our race recaps without talking about the season finale in ARCA. Let's turn our attention over there real quick. The grand finale of the ARCA 2025 season comes to an end. Curtain closed at Toledo Speedway with the Owens Corning 200. There was drama, redemption, and ultimately a championship was crowned. So let's roll how it played out. Final race took place at the half-mile at Toledo Speedway, short oval known for close quarters, lap traffic, and opportunities for bold moves. Stakes were pretty high, with Brendan Butterbean Queen entering the day needing to just start the race to clinch the championship. He built a dominant points lead over LeVar Scott and others over the last few weeks over there in the ARCA Menards Series, but this race was still up for grabs overall. The win would not come easy. From the start, Max Reeves set the tone. He won pole and led 199 of 200 laps, virtually a wire-to-wire performance. In the closing laps, Brendan Queen mounted a serious challenge. He hounded Reeves, attempting late passes and trying to pressure him into a mistake. On the final lap, there was contact in turn 1 as Reeves bumped Queen out of the groove. Reeves held on across the finish line first. Queen, though, did have what he needed. He finished second, strong enough to clinch the championship by points. The rest of the top 5, you saw Tristan McKee come home third for another strong performance over there. Also in the mix was Isabella Robusto in 4th and Tyler Reef in 5th. Queen's season stats, he tailed 8 wins, 4 poles, and 17 top 5 finishes in his rookie National ARCA season. Enough consistency and dominance to capture the crown. For Reeves, it was a fitting way to end the season. He said afterwards he regretted the nudge to Queen. Some misjudgment under pressure, but he was proud to close out his first full-time national ARCA campaign with a victory. Queen's perspective on the incident: he took a gracious view. He recognized the championship was his, but also called the racing spirited. In his words, something like, "We won the war." So with the championship and the season all wrapped up, you had Brendan Queen finishing 106 points ahead of LeVar Scott, who ended the season in second place standings. Behind Scott were Jason Kitzmiller, Isabella Robusto, Wallace Allen, and others rounding out the top 10. That was Max Reeves' victory, his third ARCA national win of 2025. That win also helped Joe Gibbs Racing in owner points, though their full championship bid fell short. Pinnacle Racing Group's first national ARCA driver and owner titles, with Queen winning the championship there, which is great. Validated the belief, the risk, and the faith that PRG placed on Queen coming over from the Cars Tour. And on that final lap, Reeves and Queen were side by side. Queen drove low into turn one, but Queen bounced back up the track, lost the groove. Reeves held firmly, victory by nose. He'd already won the title, though, over there for PRG. And yeah, he just drove smart enough to finish second and steal the season. And that's championship racing. So that's it. 2025 ARCA Menards Series is in the books. Brendan Queen walks away in the offseason with hardware and momentum, ending strong. Final victory capstone for Reeves. They'll now work towards 2026 with, are we going to tweak some rules, different sponsorships? Queen as a champion faces expectations. Can he defend? Is he going to land a ride somewhere else? Can PRG build on this year's success? These are all things we'll figure out as we go, right? And finally, a little bit of USAC news here. Race recap for the national sprints of the Tony Hulman Classic, 55th annual Tony Hulman Classic. This one had heart redemption and a milestone win for a familiar name. So let's roll into how it played out. The Hulman Classic is one of USAC Sprint Car's most storied events, a benchmark every driver wants on their resume. This year, hundreds of laps and dozens of attempts had eluded Justin Grant up to this point until tonight, right? Fields were stacked, the track was tough, and the weight of past near misses hung in the pits. Could Grant shake that hex that he had on him tonight? Over in the Honest Abe qualifying session, Kyle Cummins ended up turning the fastest lap, giving him the momentum, going 19.6 seconds. He took the pole in the feature. Justin Grant ended up winning the third heat race, transferring him to the feature. The main story was the feature, though. The 30-lap feature began with Michael Moles taking an early lead from pole. He led the first 3 laps, but on lap 4, Grant, who started fourth, made his move. He overtook Moles in turn 1 and grabbed the lead, and he never looked back. Behind him, CJ Leary and Ricky Lewis battled for second, but as laps wound down a twist for Moles shredded his right rear tire just 4 laps to go, forcing him out of the top pack and opened the door for Leary, Lewis, Cummins, and Swanson to vie for podium spots, and navigated the traffic beautifully. Padlock consistent lap times with 20.1 and 20.2s in the range of the late race, and held off any challengers. He crossed the line with a margin of 1.725 seconds, and that's how you break the Hulman curse. Leary grabbed second, his best finish in Hulman. Ricky Lewis charged from 10th to 3rd, earning the Rod End Supply Hard Charger Award for this late race surge. Kyle Cummins, the pole sitter and points leader, settled for 4th, while Jake Swanson climbed to 5th. Grant's win was huge, his first ever Hulman Classic victory after 15 attempts at this race. He also earned his 11th USAC National Sprint Car win of 2025, pushing his career total to 65 wins in this series. Pancho Carter was on hand as a Grand Marshal 50 years after his own Hulman win, handing over the rifle trophy to Grant, a fitting full-circle moment. After Hulman, the USAC AMSOIL Sprint Car Series points reflect stability and a twist. Kyle Cummins leads the points chase. Mitchell Moulds holds second. Logan Seavey and Kevin Thomas Jr. are behind that, with Grant jumping into the mix after the landmark win. It's not just about tonight. Grant's win resets the momentum for him, strengthens belief among the teams, gives him the boost heading into the upcoming dates at Lawrenceburg and beyond. Leary and Lewis might have shake-up contender momentum now, so we'll watch that. Just awesome to see. That was the Tony Hulman Classic in the books, a night where prestige paid off and underdog pressure delivered. No one driver's career boxes got checked. So congrats to Grant and the team over there. Next up, they'll be heading to Lawrenceburg Speedway this upcoming weekend. The points battle is still alive, and after tonight, anyone can strike. So we will see how that all shakes out. This brings us to the history portion for this week. Got one I'm pretty excited about. Wilbur Shaw, a man who wasn't just fast, he was strategic, relentless, and a visionary. He was also a man who made sure the Indianapolis 500 didn't disappear after World War II, and that's the biggest thing we can thank him for, right? So this is the story of Wilbur Shaw, three-time Indy 500 winner, national champion, and savior of the Brickyard. In his early life, Wilbur Shaw was born on October 31st, 1902 in Shelbyville, Indiana, and even as a kid, he was hooked on racing. Legend has it he competed in local goat races, yes, goat races, before ever touching a car. When his family moved closer to Indianapolis, young Wilbur quit school to help support them, where he worked in engineering shops, learning machinery inside and out, and by 1921 he was building his own race cars at just 19 years old. Shaw drove one of his homemade creations to his first real victory at the Midwest dirt tracks. From that moment on, he was set on a single goal, and that was to win the Indianapolis 500. Shaw made his Indy 500 debut in 1927, and he came out swinging, finishing fourth as a rookie. Over the next decade, he became one of the most consistent drivers in the field. Out of 13 career starts at Indy, he'd finished in the top 10 8 times and in the top 5 7 times. But here's something wild. Shaw never once started from pole position. Not one of his 3 wins came from the front row. His success was built on brains, patience, and car control, not just raw qualifying speed. So we're going to cover his first victory from 1937. It all came together for him then. Shaw drove the Shaw-Gilmore Special, powered by an Offenhauser engine. He led 131 of 200 laps, but with just a handful to go, his oil pressure dropped. He was nursing a wounded car, praying it would last. Ralph Hayborn was charging hard behind him, and Shaw held him off by just over 2 seconds, at the time the closest finish in Indy 500 history. It was gritty, against the odds win, and it proved Shaw's place among the greats. In between wins, Shaw seemed to be cursed by second place. He finished runner-up in 1933, 1935, and 1938, and yet those near misses only added to his reputation as a master of consistency. On Indy, Shaw also claimed the AAA National Driver Championship, essential in the U.S. Open Wheel title in 1937 and 1939. He wasn't just an Indy specialist, he was the best all-around driver of his era. So let's talk about his back-to-back glory years. 1939 and 1940, he came in with Maserati. In 1939, Shaw climbed into the Boyle Special Maserati 8CTF, a beautiful Italian car modified for Indy's unique demands. He drove it to victory, becoming the first man ever to win the Indy 500 in a Maserati. Then again in 1940, he did it. He did it again. This time he led 136 laps before rain forced the final 50 laps to run under caution. Shaw coasted home to back-to-back wins, the first driver in history to pull off consecutive victories at the Brickyard. With 3 wins total, Shaw joins Louis Myers as the only second 3-time winner in Indy history. Let's talk about his heartbreak. In 1941, Shaw seemed destined for even greater history. He led more than 100 laps and was in command of the race when disaster struck. A wheel hub failed, sending him crashing into turn 1 wall. He was soaked in fuel but miraculously survived. But that accident ended his driving career at Indianapolis. To this day, no one has ever won the Indy 500 3 years in a row. Shaw came as close as anyone ever has. We saw again this year that we could maybe see another from Joseph Newgarden. That was the talk of the town, right? But it's just a curse that can't be lifted. So let's talk about career numbers. Let's put this into perspective. His Indy career by the numbers: 13 starts, 3 wins in 37, 39, and 1940, 3 runner-up finishes, 7 top 5s, 108 laps led, still among the all-time leaderboard there. More than $146,000 in prize money at the time when purses were a fraction of what they are now. Not bad for a kid who started by racing goats, right? So we talked about his driving career. That's not the most important thing about Shaw. His most important contribution didn't happen behind the wheel. When World War II hit, racing stopped. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway sat idle for 4 years. Weeds cracked through the bricks. The stands rotted. Rumors swirled that the track would be torn down and turned into housing. Shaw couldn't let that happen. While working with Firestone, he inspected the speedway and saw the decay firsthand. He launched a campaign to save it, writing letters, calling in favors, pitching the vision of a revived Brickyard. That's when he convinced Tony Hulman to buy the speedway in 1945. Hulman put up the money, provided the passion, and together they brought the track back to life. By 1946, the Indy 500 was back, and Shaw was named president and general manager of the speedway. He held that post until his death in 1954. without Wilbur Shaw, there's a good chance we wouldn't have an Indy 500 today. So if anything you need to remember from this is that he's the man who saved the Indy 500, something we all love and enjoy today, right? A few more notes about the man himself. Shaw is still the last Indiana-born driver to win the Indianapolis 500. No Hoosier has done it since, even though we hope and pray that Connor Daly will get his. But until then, he's the only one to have done it. He helped pioneer safety equipment like helmets in racing's early days. The Maserati that he drove, the Boyle Special, still remains the most famous Indy 500 winner car of all time. In honor of his contributions, a rest stop on the Indiana Toll Road bears his name. Sadly, Shaw's life ended in a plane crash on October 30th, 1954, one day before his 52nd birthday, but his influence is everywhere. Every time the field of 33 takes the green flag, they're running on the foundation that Shaw helped save. So when we remember Wilbur Shaw, it's not just about 3 wins at Indy, it's about resilience, vision, and who will keep the Speedway alive for future generations. He was more than a champion driver, he was a champion for the sport himself. And that kind of wraps it up for that. Thank you, Wilbur Shaw, for all you've done for motorsport. Thanks for joining me on this lap through history. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the follow, share it with your fellow racing fans, and tune in next time as we uncover more stories from the fast lane of motorsport past. Please hit us up on all the socials, like, share, subscribe. And until next time, stay safe, and thanks for tuning in.